The town of Pleasanton is just a little too perfect. Part 2. I ran out of the park, across the perfectly clean sidewalk, to the front of Elle's dresses. "Hello?" I yelled, banging on the glass. But the woman was gone. "Maybe we should just forget it. It doesn't seem like she wants to talk to us," Brandon says behind me, his voice jittery. "Do you want to get out of this town or not?" I spat. "Hello? Excuse me?" I shouted, banging harder. Behind the shaking glass, the lavishly dressed mannequins stared at us with blank faces, as if silently judging us. I tried the door. Locked. Then I cupped my hands over the windows and gasped. Behind the dress forms, there was nothing. Just a large, empty room. No dresses, no clothes, no inventory at all. "It's not a real store," I said. "Just a facade. The sharp whistle of the train. I looked up. In the distance sat the train, in the same place as before. I wonder... It took us 20 minutes to walk to the station. When we finally got there, it was my turn to be disturbed. There were no train tracks. Well, unless you count the crudely painted railroad ties on the asphalt. No wonder I hadn't seen it move since we first arrived. It was a train sitting on flat ground. "We shouldn't go any closer," Brandon said, laying a hand on my shoulder. "This whole thing feels weird, like a..." He trailed off, fear flashing in his eyes. "Like what, Brandon?" "Like a trap." And then I heard it. Voices, chatting and laughing, coming from inside the train. I glanced at the windows. Within a few of them, I saw the dark silhouettes of people, contrasting starkly with the yellow light. "There are people in there," I said. "Maybe they can help us." I started towards it. "Caroline, no. We shouldn't..." "What? You want us to walk around this town forever?" "No, but..." I wheeled around, the anger suddenly bubbling up inside me. "No, you know where I thought you were taking me. New York City, to see a Broadway show, or to climb the top of the Empire State Building." "Caroline..." "You said that's where we were going. You said it! But then you lost the game of poker with Greg, and suddenly the plans changed." I felt tears sting my eyes. "At least have the decency to admit it." "But..." "You find some stupid little bed and breakfast, and then to top it all off, you forget to get gas, and we wind up stranded in this dinky little town." I yanked away from him. With a deep breath, I climbed the metal stairs and pulled the door open. "Hello?" I called more loudly than I meant to. The yellow light flickered. Seats, upholstered with red fabric, flanked the aisle. But they were empty. The pockets of each seat back were also empty, as were the luggage racks overhead. "Hello?" Brandon stepped in behind me. "Okay, we'll explore this thing. Just... let's try to make it quick, okay?" I ignored him and walked further down the aisle. "Hello?" I called again. The voices grew weaker, then stronger, then weaker, and every single seat was empty.
Hello.
My voice caught in my throat. There on the painted window was the silhouette of a man.
Caroline!
I whipped around. Brandon was standing by one of the seats, his face pale.
I know where the voices are coming from.
I rushed over. He was pointing frantically to something embedded in the arm of the chair. I crouched down to get a better look.
It's a speaker,
I whispered. The sound reverberated through the metal of the train, shaking the floor underneath us. I looked up and through the window at the front. A shadow in the next car, coming towards us. We ran down the aisle, past the empty chairs, the silhouettes on the windows, the speakers and their recordings of chatter. The doors rolled open. A tall, thin man walked in, wearing a tuxedo and a mustache. As soon as his eyes met ours, he quickened his pace.
Caroline, stop staring and run!
Brandon pulled me out of the car. We ran down the street, past the fake trees, the glass pond, the empty shops. We ran until our legs ached, our lungs burned, our feet stung.
There, the church.
We ran into the atrium. Brandon lifted the welcome sign and pushed it through the handles to barricade the door.
Let's get inside.
He pulled open the door.
No.
The church wasn't empty. The pews were filled with mannequins, all formally dressed in suits and dresses and hats, turned towards the front of the church. And at the front was a woman. Or rather, the skeleton of one. It appeared she had died at least several years ago from the state of her body. But she was dressed in her new, crisp white wedding gown. She was propped up against the altar, as if waiting for her groom.
What the hell?
Brandon muttered. We walked down the aisle. The painted faces stared at us blankly. A blonde woman in a summer hat, her plastic hair trailing down her neck. A dashing man, eyes dull and black, wearing a stiff gray suit.
We should get out of here,
I said.
It's only a matter of time before he finds us.
A hand shot out from the pew and latched onto mine. I lost my balance. Pain shot through my knees. I screamed and tried to yank my hand away, but she was so strong, pulling me into the pew. I looked up. It wasn't one of the mannequins, but a woman, the same woman from the shop. In the light of the church, I realized she was quite young, maybe 20 at most.
We don't have much time,
she said, yanking at my hand wildly.
When he gets here, he'll...
She cut off.
I can protect you, I promise. Just come with me.
Brandon shook his head.
It's another trap, just like the train. I'm telling the truth, she yelled.
Then tell us the truth about everything, I said, stepping towards her. Who is he? Why is everything fake? She sighed.
He's my father.
Brandon and I looked at each other.
My mother died 10 years ago. After she did, he got a little obsessed. He wanted to recreate their perfect wedding day, down to the small little town that they got married in.
Why not just move back to that town? Brandon asked.
It had already changed significantly since that day. A Domino's, where Cafe Italiano used to be, a parking garage on top of the park.
She threw a scared glance at the door.
Not to mention the tons of tourists visiting from the city every weekend.
Why doesn't he want to hurt us? I asked. I mean, we'll sit in on his little corpse wedding if it means he'll let us go.
No, he won't have it. People are imperfections according to him. This is his perfect town, and he wants no one messing it up. And...
She cut off. The doors of the church shook and shuddered, making a sickening, splintering crack each time they were hit.
"Let me in,"
a voice yelled from the other side.
"Let me in, V."
We followed her to the back of the church, down a dark set of stairs. The air grew thick and musty. Cold emanated from the stone walls. She led us through a few doors, locking each one as we went by. As we entered a narrower tunnel, we slowed down to a walk.
"Walk that way. 30 minutes, you'll come up on the other side. There's a convenience store on the outskirts of Franklin. They'll give you a lift."
What about my car? She stared at Brandon without a smile.
"Don't come back for it."
V was true to her word. In a half hour, we had surfaced on the other side, next to a mom-and-pop convenience store. While Brandon called for a ride, I stared out across the desert at Pleasanton, and in the distance, I heard the faint toll of wedding bells ringing out across the sand.